Alright, so here is the financial problem that is being crafted, and is relating to a company called Sweepy Limited. And Sweepy Limited is a wholesale company and wants to use a financial model to assess the financial implication of its credit policy. Okay, so what part of its credit policy is it using a model to assess? So the company has a two-term trade credit agreement. In this agreement, it offers a discount to its buyers if payment is made within a certain period, which is typically shorter than the net payment period. And so the company has a 2 to 10 net 30 agreement, and this will give the buyer a discount of 2%. That's what the 2 stands for, 2%, if payment is realized by the 10th day following delivery. That's what the 10 stands for. If the buyer fails to take advantage of the discount, there are still 20 additional days in which to pay the full price of the goods without being in default. That's the 30 days. So difference between 30 and 10 is the 20 additional days that customers can pay the full price of the goods delivered to them, and that they will not be in default. Okay, that is, the net period has a total duration of 30 days. Alright, so finally, as with net terms, the company could charge penalties if buyer still fails to meet the payment after the net term has expired. It is expected that 30% of the company's buyers would adopt the discount. Alright, so if 30% of the company's customers base accept the discount, that's the assumption here, and this can also be established by looking at the company's customer base in the past, by reviewing the past data of the company's customer base. Alright, so note, trade credit can be an attractive source of funds due to its simplicity and convenience. However, trade credit is like a loan by the company to its customers. So the company is actually granting its customers loan by giving them credit grace to make payments. And so there are two issues associated with this loan that companies usually give their customers in trade credit agreements. And the issues are: what is the necessary amount of the loan that is granted to customers, which impliedly is the amount of receivables that the company expects from the customers within those periods. Then another issue is, what is the cost of it? So what does it cost the company when customers do not pay what their receivables? What is the cost of the company? The cost of the company might be that the company will go get an equivalent amount from the bank, in order to meet their running costs. So that might be, so the cost of getting such funding elsewhere will be the cost of such trade credit granted to customers. Therefore, the company needs to build a model in order to estimate: 1. The cost of trade credit it provides to its customers. So what does it cost the company to provide trade credits to the customers? Here, customers will not pay 2% of the amount if they pay within 10 days. So customers who pay within 10 days will not pay 2% of the amount that is expected from them, which means that they are paying 98%. So the company is actually cost the company this 2% that the customers are not paying. So that's one part of the cost that the company. So that's in answering the question: what is the cost of it? Therefore, the company needs to build a model in order to estimate what the cost of the trade credit it provides to its customer. So that has been answered. Then the funding impact of it, on the basis that 70% of the company's customers will not adopt the discounts, given that it has an annual turnover of 10 million naira. Alright, so if companies do not tax, if customers to the tune of 70% will not take off the discount, but only 30% takes up the discount, what would be the funding impact of these receivables that is being granted to customers? So, in answering these questions, there has been a financial problem, and questions are asked, outputs are required. These are the outputs, the cost of the trade credit that the company provides to its customer. That's one output. Another output the company requires is the funding impact of giving out loan to 30% of its customer base. So what is the funding impact of it? The cost of funds, what is it? So that's another question that the company is asking, which is the second output that the company requires from this problem. So this is how to identify outputs from a particular problem. What do you want to achieve at the end of the day? What are you driving towards? What are you driving at? The company is driving at establishing the cost of trade credits that it provides to its customers. And so the cost of it is the 2% that is being taken off from their payment. That's an output. Now, in order to determine these 2% that is being taken from their payment in absolute terms, then we need to begin to identify the inputs that relate to it. What are the inputs that will make us establish the absolute amount of 2% discount granted to customers? One, we need the annual turnover that the company earned. 10 million is an input to it. Then, how many customers take up this discount? 30% of them. So 30% of customers take up this. This is another input. So when you identify the output, it is easy for you to identify inputs, to that. Then we also require the discount rate. So the discount rate is the 2%. These are applied during the process of calculation, in the calculation aspect of the model, to answer this, to establish these outputs. A, the cost of the trade credit that the company provides to its customer. So that is exactly how to define input and output of a model. So this is the problem, and we have been able to establish the outputs, then identifying the input from these outputs. Now, when you look at this, you see that a formula approach has been done on this problem, where formulas are used to establish the output for this model. And a typical way the output of the model should look like is this, cost of the discounts that the company provides to its customers, then the funding impact of the trade credit it gives, So this is exactly how the output should look like. Then you should then begin to establish what the input is. But then this approach of using formula approach, where you establish the effective annual rate, using this formula, and you derive 36.7% effective annual rate that the company, that which is the implied cost that the company is actually giving out to customers, is 36.7%. But then the company needs to look at if it can get funding for these receivables that the company is expecting the customers to pay on time in order to be liquid, to finance its day-to-day running. If the company can get such amount elsewhere, at a cheaper rate than 36.7%. That will be better. So comparing this 36 effective annual rate from the discount that the company is proposing or giving out to the customers vis-a-vis other sources where it can get it cheaper than 36.7. If the company can get such amounts at 25%, 20%, 23%, then the company better not give discounts. Rather go for funding elsewhere where it can find it cheaper. So that's one approach. So this is the formula approach to it. Now the cost of funding, you can see how it is done here. So this is not a model. This is not a model. If you are a mathematician, you can't, your mathematician may not necessarily be a modeler. So this is not a model. This is just a mathematics approach, So I'm going to show us in the next slide how to establish, how to build a model for this simple financial problem. See you in the next slide.